will you get your flu shot?
Of course I will, Tim, especially if it meant for the game to get back on the park. Listen, at the moment it's a very sensitive time. It's a sensitive issue. There's a lot going on in our game. We want to get back onto that field, but at the moment, I think all the senses are heightened. Every issue is magnified because of the position that we're in. Usually we're previewing and reviewing footy games every week, or even soccer games or cricket, whatever it may be. There's no sport at all. So now we're previewing and reviewing topics or issues or roadblocks that are getting in the way of the NRL getting back on the field. Listen, I think there'll be a resolution here, like every other situation that we've had, every other roadblock that we've had, between now and getting the game back on. We've come up with a resolution with federal and state governments, and I think we will hear. There's a few players. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of choice. Unfortunately, it's just a big issue at the moment. But I do think that we will get a conclusion and a solution, and it will happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think we all agree with freedom of speech and the democratic ways. But, Nick, the bottom line is, and we heard it from the Prime Minister, he's saying no jab, no play. I'd have to be with him on this. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, and maybe I'm missing something here, Timmy. I don't see what the big deal is, and I'm a bit like Braith, and maybe, my line of thinking might be a little bit different to the modern player in whatever particular code. If that's what you want from me and that's what you require from me to get back onto the field and ultimately do what I love and ultimately get paid for it, then I would put my hand up. I'd be first in line to get the flu shot. Now, there's obviously other reasons why some people don't believe in it, and I completely understand that. But I do agree with Braith. It is a heightened situation that we're in right now, but it just sort of feels like we just need to do whatever we can to put sport back on the TV, to give it back to our fans who ultimately pay for the game. And if that's what we have to do, then you line up and get your flu shot.
Is the league on track, do you think, for May 28, Braith, despite the flu jabs and players off riding motorbikes? Can we? I know we are talking.
Almost laughable. I
know. It'd be just nice to actually just follow the bouncing ball a bit. And now the Albury Council won't let Melbourne Storm train. You would have thought they'd love to have them there.
I know, especially with where tourism is at the moment, where small country towns are struggling with no one being there or coming through. It would have brought great focus and I think would have been fantastic for Albury. But it's crazy at the moment. It's crazy times, and we're seeing the consequences of that. Listen, I do believe we'll be back in May 28th. As I mentioned earlier, I think because there's nothing else to talk about, everything's heightened, everything is magnified, every issue, every topic is just tenfold. It really is, and it's a lot of drama, but I do believe behind the scenes the players are doing all the right things. Once we get through this anti-vaccine situation, I believe we are well and truly on track, and everything will be play on.
Now, Nick, no one loves, as we watch a little bit of rugby league vision, there's Bryce Cartwright. He's one of the players from the Gold Coast who has the anti-vax stance, and a number of other players, both at that club and the Canberra Raiders, on the same. So that needs to be sorted out. But let's get to the AFL, and look, no one likes the Chateau Tanunda more than I do, or the restaurants or wineries of the Barossa Valley, but you've got to choose your mark. The Adelaide Crows, they've been in some strife, and look, pretty dumb move here.
Yeah, it's disappointing, and maybe they thought they could get away with something. They're an hour out of Adelaide. There's 16 players, or a group of players, that are in quarantine for 2 weeks, and in some ways I can understand the edginess to get back into training and that feeling of, yes, I'm back with the boys. Let's go and get a little bit of a session under our belt. Now, when this broke, I was actually about to go on to a Fox Footy show, and it sort of seemed a little bit innocent at the time. And we spoke about it. I was with Jason Dunst. We said, well, if it's just a group of guys that were out and they're on a golf course across 2 fairways, having a kick of the footy, then I know it's against the rules. And first of all, it's the isolation and the distancing rules. So they'll get treated rightly by the Australian government and their local, the Australian feds. And they'll get their fine. But I was like, it's not a real big deal, is it? As we've been found out more information, it was an organised session. They had a coach or an assistant coach alongside, and they were trying to get a competitive advantage. Now, what I must say is I don't think you're going to get much, if anything, of an advantage. And I've spoken about this in regards to the teams out of Perth and their limitation to only training groups of 2 like everybody else is. I don't see a competitive advantage coming if you are able to train in a group of 16 for 1 or 2 sessions that nobody else is getting. But it is against the rules that the AFL had stipulated, and unfortunately, I think they're going to get punished. Now, the next question, the flow on from that is, what does that punishment look like? Clubs are struggling financially, so does the club get fined, which would be a massive hit for their situation right now? Is it worth they lose, say, 4 points, which is the equivalent of winning one AFL game in a shortened season? So that's substantial, and that's a big, hefty whack as well. Do the players get punished? Do they get suspended? I'll be really intrigued, Timmy, to see how the AFL handle this situation. It's disappointing, but if I put my player's hat on, I can also understand you're bottled up, you're an hour out of Adelaide, you just want to get out and have a kick with the boys. I can understand that urge to do it as a bit of a group session. Oh, you
can certainly see the mentality, but in the current climate, I think they really do need to be punished. Braith, that's only my view. Braith, one referee, quickly. It looks like we're going to come back with one. Look, I think the NRL will have wooden desks and pencils. I think that Peter V'landys is going to take it back to ground zero financially.
Yeah, you talk about cost cuts. Unfortunately, the referees may take the first hit. But in terms of one referee, Timmy, I like it. I think we've got to quicken the game up. I think we've got too many stoppages. And if this is a way of making the game quicker, faster, less complicated, let's do it.
When we're going to be back, Nick? When's the AFL? Because the West Australian government's saying, I don't know, we don't feel comfortable. Just quickly, when are we going to be back?
Well, I still expect it to be mid to late June. Club officials and players that I've spoken to this week are expecting to be back at training in some capacity this Wednesday. So if all goes to plan and in Victoria, Dan Andrews gives a little bit of the green light, say on Monday, they're expecting to be back 48 hours later at the football club. So I'm expecting that still to be mid to late June.
As a lover of both codes, I cannot wait to get them both back. Finally, boys, graceful glamour. Graceful glamour, the Gosford Gold Cup today at Randwick. Just a little gentle each way, all right, boys?
Okay, 5 minutes, Timmy. We're on.